If there's one thing worse than getting tagged on YouTube with a tag that you don't want to do, it's being tagged on YouTube with a tag that you don't want to do by somebody you like a lot, whose videos you have to watch because you invariably end up laughing or being as outraged as them or learning something. And such is the case with Meridian Frost. If you're not subscribed to him, I feel there's something wrong with your IQ. It's the 5 macabre questions. I've tried to give it some thought. I don't think I'm going to be that original, but I'll try. And I will try to answer as honestly as I can. What sort of psychopath would I be? I'd be the kind that watched the TV for a few years before I even started. I'd make a list of those people who robbed pension funds or asset-stripped companies, throwing hundreds or thousands out of work to line their own pockets and maybe buy themselves a bigger yacht. Them I would have. I would also have the people who robbed pensioners on a tiny, tiny scale by comparison to the big boys. I'd have them too. I might do the odd psychic or medium. I'd certainly have anyone who abused children, even mentally. I'd go for them as well. They'd all be on a list. I'd have to jumble them up, names out of a hat, to not do them in sequence, to delay the point where the psychological profilers realised what I was doing. They'd probably have a suspicion at the first one. They'd know by the second, but if I jumbled up the order, they wouldn't be able to get ahead of me and watch my next victim. I'd also like to do them in a totally different mixture of ways, so that the method could not be guessed at for the next one. I'd have to watch out for them planting a news story once I'd started with something really heinous that somebody hadn't done, just to draw me to them. So I'd have to be careful about that. I'd eventually get caught, but you know, as the guy in Seven said, when you're creating a work of art, you want people to know that you signed the painting. So I'd get caught eventually, but only when I was done. I'd like to complete the list. I would fail if they got to me before I'd completed the list. If I didn't get caught, I'd get really pissed off. Then I might go for people who tag me on YouTube. How would I like to be executed? Death by hydrogen bomb enema would be my choice. I think that would be extremely quick, totally painless, and it would also answer that question I've always had as to whether the senses work quick enough for you to detect the moment had arrived. I don't think there's any chance that you would ever know that you were dead if you died by a hydrogen bomb enema. Or you could launch me to Mars. If you're worried about the landing system working, send me and I'll tell you. I don't mind the one-way trip. The view for 24 hours, that would be very nice, but I think cost in both cases might be a little bit prohibitive. If I was offered £10 million to kill the oldest member of my family, would I? I would have to before she killed me, because if she knew that I had that offer, she would bitch slap me something chronic. Bitch slap me to death if I didn't do it. She's 98, she can barely get out of a chair, but her mouth can kill over the telephone, so it would have to be done. She's 98, as I may have said. She said to me only last week that she hoped the good Lord took her before she had to go into care. So I would be doing the Lord's work, and I'd do it far, far less painfully. If it was a choice between my family and the rest of the human race, what would I choose? I don't think a real psychopath would answer differently. I don't know, it depends. Maybe a psychopath with nihilistic tendencies would. Be interesting to ask some real psychopaths that question. Personally, it's a no-brainer. My family has to go. But whatever death you had in mind for me, you wouldn't get me, because my sister would kill me first as soon as she found out how I answered the question. Who would I kick off YouTube if I had the chance to do so? No-brainer again. It would be the Pope, with the proviso that I could actually physically kick him. Maybe, kick him, and then, Father, forgive me, for I have sinned. and then really stick the boot in. I don't want to hospitalise the guy, I just like the idea of him thinking of me every time he sat on the toilet. Because the Pope does sit on the toilet, contrary to popular belief. I believe he even breaks wind once every century. Despite the sadistic nature of tagging me, it's quite probable that Meridian Frost actually deserves your subscription. Go and check him out. But remember, he's not as handsome as me. Even though age is on his side, it's quite a sad sight when you actually see the guy. Try to be kind to him.